All right. Greetings. Welcome back to Blackbird News. Sorry, I was having an issue. So, dealing with customer service. But how y'all doing? You know what? You know when you get into the customer service funnel. Throw a little misunderstanding in there and or miscommunication in there, and man, it can go really off. What's up, everybody? Thought there was a floater in my coffee. Anyways, how y'all doing? Thanks for being here. It is kind of strange because we're supposed to be getting a big old rainstorm coming through, but right now it is balmy, lovely, almost tropical in Southern California. It's just another day in paradise, as they say. It's just a lovely day. In fact, I want to end the show afterward, not end it right now, but after the show, I'm going to go, I don't know, just maybe take a stroll, take in some air, just take a break for a second because I was just really frustrated for a moment. You want to hear the story? Here's the story. So I was ordering something. I'm ordering some t-shirts because I'm going to make some t-shirts. And you just got some rain in the bay? Okay. Yeah, I heard it was going to hit there earlier, like today. I was ordering some t-shirts. They're like, okay. They had my old address, my wrong address on there, and so I had to update my address. So I updated my address when I placed the order, and I placed the order, and it should have confirmed going to the wrong address. I was like, what the? So I, go into the chat bot. I'm like, let's chat. So I try to chat with the chat bot. I'm like, can I change my address? The chat bot keeps sending me the wrong link to change my. I'm like, you're not helping me. You sent me the wrong link like 3 times. Then the chat bot's like, well, why don't you go over and do it this way? And so I went to this other place, help center or something, whatever, on the website. This is a boring story. I go in there. I changed my address in there, and they're like, okay, we'll send you a confirmation email. They didn't send me a confirmation email for like a long time. So I was like, did you guys even get my message? And finally I got the confirmation email. They're like, yeah, we got it. Okay, you're all good. It's fixed. And then like right before the show, I get 2 emails from them saying your order is on its way to the wrong address. I was like, what the fuck? So I had to like do like a fire alarm, like, oh my God, and what's it's going to a house that doesn't even exist. So that's a problem. I got it ironed out, but not without ramping up my frustration level and stress level like to like 90%. Oh, well, thanks, Kate. I appreciate that. Well, that's just so that was the story of my not starting the show on time because I was like, what is going on? But luckily I did not totally like lose my cool, because I was at a point of like losing my cool. I didn't. And any day that I can keep from losing my cool is a good day. I don't lose my cool much anymore because it's not productive. You know what I'm saying? All right. How y'all feeling? So you got some rain in the bay, peace in pocket. Going south here, Kate's here. Some other people are here. We don't know about them because reasons. We're live on Substack. The stream is up on Substack. If you want to chat on Substack, you're welcome to come chat on Substack. The stream. People are chatting on Odyssey. What's up, Kate? We're getting slammed with rain up here on the coast. Yeah, it's about to get here, but until then, the data center disaster. Until then, as Bill Weather said, it's a lovely day. Ooh, Trump is in trouble. Trump is in trouble. Ooh, he's going to get it. It just gets worse. The Epstein thing just keeps, it's kind of wild. It just keeps going. And you like wonder, like, it's kind of great that it keeps going because it is really like a chain around the orange ogre's neck. And I'm really hoping that it becomes his undoing. Anyways, just as a primer, here's a Colombian President Petro talking about a clan of pedophiles wants to destroy our democracy. Just to set the stage. Grab him by the crosshairs. That would, yeah, that's, he's said much worse things than that. That one's almost comical. I know some people might not find it funny, but in the context, if it was anybody else but Trump saying it, would be like, but he said some really horrific things. So I'm just saying, like, in contrast, that's a horrific thing. I'm sure horrific enough for people, but like in contrast, that one's almost mild. Yeah, that one's almost mild, even though it was pretty outlandish thing to say. But I mean, he said it in private. Why am I defending Trump? I don't know. But people say all kinds of stuff in private, right? Like people say really crazy stuff in private. As I said, that one isn't like kind of pales in comparison to really to grow, kind of like if she weren't my daughter, I'd date her. Yeah, don't do that. Don't say that. Don't say that in private or out loud. Colombian President Petro, a clan of pedophiles wants to destroy our democracy. We'll listen. I think this is probably going to be Spanish.
Pero ahí está la realidad. Y para que no salga la lista, entonces nos envían acorazados a matar pescadores de esta ciudad. Y amenazar al vecino, que si dictador o no, ¿cómo que el pueblo de Colombia va a aplaudir que invadan a su hermano, que no es el presidente, sino el pueblo de Venezuela? ¿Cuándo? Seríamos así de traidores y de vendidos, de que nuestra propia sangre la traicionamos, o el pueblo del Ecuador, o el pueblo de Panamá, o el pueblo de Venezuela no es nuestro propio pueblo. Y entonces quieren que el presidente haga lo que quería hacer Duque, cobarde, prestar las tierras de Colombia para que desde ahí se invadiera a un país hermano que tiene la misma historia que nosotros, porque allá nació Bolívar y vino a morir aquí, en esta ciudad. No se puede. Presidente de Colombia que haga eso, presidente maldito por las generaciones futuras, porque nunca será olvidado como un traidor. Y yo no pertenezco a los que querían matar a Bolívar.
Anyway, this goes on and on.
El gobierno de Venezuela ha hecho muchas críticas.
The point of it,
pero no me burlo.
It was a clan of pedophiles wants to destroy our democracy. That's hilarious. To keep the list from coming out, they want to send warships to kill fishermen and threaten our neighbor with invasion for their oil. What do you? Are you? Is that a move? He won the election a year ago. Move on. What do you mean? Move on. He's wrecking the place, dude. What do you mean? Move on. He can win an election, but he can also get thrown the fuck out. And he should. And actually, the day can't come soon enough, because what he's doing is insane. What he's doing is illegal and insane, and not quite on a war crime level of Netanyahu, but like committing some pretty big crimes. On top of corruption, embezzlement, and all kinds of shit. He's probably broke. I don't know how many like financial laws he's broken while he's been president. Quite a few. I'm sure there's probably quite a few RICO statutes he's could be indicted with. So that's the problem. That's why there's not moving on. We're not moving on. Nobody's moving on. But maybe you're joking. I don't know. It ain't popular around here. And what if you? I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what there is to support. Like, what are you supporting, or what are you okay with? You're okay with what? With doing away with due process, with shipping people off to foreign countries to be in prison? Like, what the fuck? Is that's okay? Is that okay? Holy shit. Anyways, on top of the fact that he's kind of a, like, you okay with pedophilia too? On top of that, on top of all of that, you okay with pedophilia too? It must be a joke. Must be a joke, Salipa. But it probably is. I'm assuming. I'm going to just assume it was. I assume you're not okay with all that. I'm not putting words in your mouth, man. I'm just assuming you're not okay with all that. Let's see. There is a discharge petition to force a House vote on releasing the full Jeffrey Epstein case files. And it is it has succeeded with the swearing in of Representative Adelita Grijalva of Arizona, providing the decisive 218 signature needed to trigger the vote. House Speaker Mike Johnson has confirmed that the bill will be brought to the floor for the vote next week. The vote is expected to be contentious, with President Donald Trump warning Republicans against supporting the measure, calling it a hoax, and urging party members not to be stupid or bad by falling for it. That's cool. That's cool. Let's see. The vote is expected to be contentious, with President Donald Trump warning Republicans, they don't want to be stupid or bad. The petition was supported by a bipartisan coalition, including Republican Thomas Massie and Democrat Ro Khanna. It was backed by Epstein survivors and advocates for transparency. The discharge petition, which requires 218 signatures. So anyways, yeah, there's going to be a vote. The vote will now proceed on the Epstein Files Transparency Act, a bill co-sponsored by Massie and Khanna, which aims to compel the Justice Department to release all investigative files related to Jeffrey Epstein. The House vote is scheduled for next week, though the outcome remains uncertain, as Republican leaders have long opposed the bill and may attempt to delay or block it. The Senate previously rejected a similar effort to release the files in a 49-51 vote, et cetera, et cetera. Ooh, he's gonna be in trouble. He's gonna be in trouble. Where'd everybody go? You're good. You're here, Mr. Wizard. I see you, Mr. Wizard, in the Substack chats. What's going on, man? There's people watching on Substack. You good? Four Republicans joined Democrats to force a House vote on releasing the Epstein files. Meanwhile, Trump has signed the bill to reopen the government. And there a lot of people a lot of people thought that they were stalling part of the shutdown. You know, there were a few things going on with the shutdown, all kinds of like backdoor maneuvers and oh, you refreshed and all the comments were gone. Yeah. Substack is a little bit wonky, and I apologize for that. I have no control over that. I see your comments though. I can see your comments on the phone, but on the website, they get a little bit funny. So there was talk of one of the things that the shutdown was handy for was not swearing in Adelita Grijalva. because she was going to be the deciding vote in releasing the Epstein files. And they were trying to put that off as long as possible. But looky here, it didn't work. It didn't work. And if all of this is theater, this is good theater. This is good theater because I mean the downside is that like nothing is going to happen, and that would be surely be a very sad and kind of annoying thing. Is if even if all the files came out and maybe they even have a hearing or something, and somehow it all goes away, that would be really like frustrating to the point of enraging. But we'll see. What would be really nice, why aren't what I don't understand is why the Democrats, I mean, they have enough crazy stuff out there already. Why aren't the Democrats like, where's the impeachment motions? Where's the investigations? Where are the grand juries? Where the whatever it is, like whatever it is they need to do? Where are the hearings? Where they're like, hey man, I mean, I guess maybe this bill is a start of that. I assume this means something more serious, but maybe not. Maybe that's a dumb thing to assume. I've assumed dumb things before. I can assume them again. But where are the if and when this comes out, are we going to have like what's going to some motions about removing said dickwad from the place? I know that's not going to. I know it won't change a lot because he's not in control. He's just a figurehead. He's just a puppet, if you will. Here is I'm once in a while MTG is right. A lot of times she's wrong. So, but on this one she's right. She's saying like pretty correct words here. Hold on.
And attacked anybody else and called it a hostile act. The hostile act was Jeffrey Epstein raping 14-year-old girls. That was the hostile act, and it's not a hoax. And Eric, I'll tell you what, I hope people at home light up their phone lines. I hope they call them out on social media. I hope they show up at their district's offices. And I really hope that they push my colleagues to do the right thing. Right now, there's 4 of us. We only need 2 more, just 2 more.
She seems to be gung-ho on getting this out there. Disabled Ginger, in 2019, Trump said he hadn't seen Epstein in 15 years. One of the emails released today confirms he spent Thanksgiving 2017 with Epstein while he was president. Interesting, in the words of the church lady. Did you see some auroras, Poppy? Did you? I want to know. Peace in pocket. Even with the vote in the House to release the files, the Senate still has to approve, and then Trump has to sign, which he won't do. Then it would take 66 senators to overturn Trump's veto. There's a possibility of that. Peace in pocket. Republicans are starting to jump ship on this. there's talk that many more Republicans will defect on this issue and demand that they be released. And 66 votes, it's within reach. I think it's within reach, but again, I could be way off the mark here, but I'm just saying, like, I think there's enough evidence, and evidence mounts still. MTG is just up the road in Rome, Georgia. Up the road? Where are you? Are you in Georgia? Did I ask you this, Newer Cafe? I'm sorry if I mean, I think you didn't get an Aurora. Okay. There's a lot of momentum. And people are like, hey, man, like people are kind of like, yeah, I don't want to be on the wrong side of this. I don't know. That's just me. Reflect the Sun says, throw them all out. Bing, bang, boom. I just want to see. The thing is, if you get rid of Trump, you still have everybody else is still there. Vance and Teal and Musk and all the, the goofballs. They're still all up in the power structure. So I think it would be helpful to get Trump out because it makes, personality is kind of a thing that everything runs on. Like brand is bigger than, and brand is kind of bigger than anything, unfortunately. So if Trump goes and Vance stays, I don't think, Vance doesn't have the swagger and I just don't think he has the capacity to keep everything, holding the party together and holding everything together the way it is. I think it's kind of like a house of cards at that point. Right. But who knows? Maybe this is just letting off steam so everybody thinks that something is happening and they can go back to business. Who knows? Where am I going next? You're seeing less news coming out of Gaza because Israel killed 254 journalists. Jesus. This is how important it is for, this is how important like freedom of speech is and freedom of the press. Oh, she would never win in Atlanta? No, probably not. No, Atlanta is like, most urban cities. I mean, that's what's always funny to me is when they say, "Oh, the blue cities," right? When they're talking about New York or they're usually trying to talk about New York or California being like these liberal havens for the wingnut communists. And I'm like, every major city is blue, bro. If you go to Dallas, it's blue. If you go to Austin, it is blue. If you go to Houston, I don't know if Houston is blue. But I'm just saying, like, there's plenty of like Texas is what's known as an almost purple state because there's a lot of major cities in Texas and most of them are blue and it's the surrounding areas that are red. So like Atlanta is blue. In a very red state, Atlanta is blue. And you can go on down the line. But yeah, if you if you just take out the journalists, then luckily we don't do that here. What about, was it Michael Hastings? Was it Gary Webb? Was it? I think there's been quite a few journalists that have been marked off the whiteboard in the U.S. even. Kate says there will be a stack of sad sacks of shit on the board, even if T-Rump is out. Yeah, I mean, that part won't change. It is momentum in the right direction, though. And golly gee whiz, golly gee willikers, if you can get enough momentum, you can kind of push for some change. Yep, that's true. Creative. After Assange got released, everyone went home silent. Well, I think that, they did that just to teach him a lesson. They were like, we can't really kill him because that looks bad. Right? We can't actually just kill him because there'd be too much blowback for that. But what we could do is put him in jail and just torture the shit out of him. And that seemed to work. And they did that. You already know. You already know what I think. For a very specific reason. But they're going after journalists in different ways in the U.S. Let's talk after Kash Patel's girlfriend sued based Sam Parker and Elijah Schaefer for $5 million simply for discussing how she, a relatively attractive country singer in her mid-20s, ended up dating a visibly unhealthy cross-eyed man of Indian descent in his mid-40s. You have to admit the situation raises some real questions. As journalists or commentators, the idea that even wondering aloud about the dynamic results in lawsuits is absurd. In Elijah's case, he didn't even make any direct claims. He just criticized Israel in general. That was apparently enough for them to imply he must have thought she was a honeypot. It's also not the first time. This woman, Alexis Wilkins, sued podcaster Kyle Seraphin for $5 million a couple. Watch out if you're a podcaster, he says to himself. It's actually a blessing and a curse to not be able to have any reach. To be so boxed in by algorithms that you can't really, you're barely talking to anybody. The blessing is that, they're like, who's he talking to? Anyways. Instead of disproving suspicions, she's reinforcing them. Trying to silence people, punish dissent, and enrich yourself in the process is not how innocent people usually act. Well, isn't this the equivalent of a defamation suit? She also... Oh, that's okay. So she's suing everybody, I guess. She's like, hey, you get a lawsuit and you get a lawsuit. It's most likely about setting an example. Don't question Israel. Don't question Zionists. Don't question power, or you'll be buried in lawsuits. Well, yeah. Lawfare is the thing. Let's see. Let's look at this. The ecological cost of AI is much higher than you think. from Truth Dig. Let's switch gears here for a second. That's right, Zillibo. Slap suit and fools. I mean, it does suck. Are you quoting Elton John now? It's a little bit funny. Okay. We'll read the we'll just read this a little bit. Maybe not the whole thing, but we'll read a little bit. The ecological cost of AI is much higher than you think. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about NVIDIA creative, by the way. I think you're the one that's been talking about NVIDIA taking the economy down. A lot of things regarding, around AI could take the economy down. I mean, so, AI and Bitcoin, the worst polluters. Banks are bad, but they don't directly take down the power grid and water supplies. I've been seeing actually quite a few takes on NVIDIA. Well, somebody actually, and maybe I should have brought this as a video for the show. Maybe I'll dig it up. So someone was saying during the initial .com bust that everybody was hyped up on the technology, right? On the internet. Remember, oh, here it comes, the internet, the information superhighway. And there was a lot of like speculative hype, right, in the stock market around it. But what was happening was that the companies were basically selling people hardware for, internet hardware on loan, on credit. And so when the demand and the hype cooled, all those loans, kind of defaulted. And so that was part of the .com bust. Your neighbor is a Confederate fan. Okay, yeah. Believable. Yeah, so said person was saying the same thing about NVIDIA, is that they're everybody's buying their chips, they're in high demand, blah, blah, blah. They power everything. Everybody wants to have them in stock or on hand. And that they're starting to sell the chips to people who don't have money to buy the chips, which could cause a problem. Could cause like serious structural problems in the economy. And okay, I was like, all right, sounds good. Sounds good to me. As the microchips behind artificial intelligence grow in complexity, each generation requires more energy, minerals, and water than the last, driving a ruinous cycle with no end in sight. Ruinous. I like the word ruinous. Oh man, this is gonna be long. This is one of those short novellas. I don't have time to read a short novella. It's 12:48. I'll read the synopsis from Thomas Reese. In an internal memo from September, CEO Sam Altman said that OpenAI's audacious long-term goal is to build 250 gigawatts of capacity by 2033. That's a lot of watts. That's a lot of gigawatts. If Altman achieves this goal, OpenAI will need almost exactly as much electricity as India's 1.5 billion people. Holy shnikes. And is likely to emit nearly twice as much carbon dioxide as ExxonMobil, the world's largest non-state carbon emitter. Yeah, there's problems with the data centers and the power plants. That's why there's, man, it seems awful hinky to me, because that, that's why they want to talk about nuclear power. They want to regenerate support for nuclear power because they need a lot of power for these data centers, right? And they need power for data centers, and they're so hungry for it. They're willing to do some risky stuff, right, to get the power. And it actually, I don't really have, I don't know if I can base my thoughts on this on a really solid, I don't know if this idea is solid or not, but it's interesting to me that there's been a lot of questioning of the dangers of nuclear power lately in the last couple of years. There's been this kind of, semi-conspiratorial, like underground bubbling of nuclear bombs are fake, or nuclear power is fake, and it's not dangerous, and it's whatever, it's not like a real thing. Like I hear it out there in the conspiracy land. It's kind of it's a topic of conversation. And when I first started hearing it, I was like, okay, this is a new one. Think about. Sure. Okay. It's an idea. Remember the guy that used to come into the chats years ago talking about nuclear power is not bad? Remember that guy? I can tell you that there's pretty clear indications that it's dangerous for people's health. Pretty clear indications. Is all the information about nuclear power or nuclear weapons that we get, is it all true and correct? I don't know if it is or not. I'll leave a certain percentage of skepticism open to, maybe some things are, the elites are telling us about, but there's pretty hard evidence that people don't fare well health-wise when they are close to nuclear power plants or around nuclear power. Anyways, it's just interesting to me that there has been this kind of new discussion point about nuclear power not being dangerous, or nuclear not being a thing. And now all of a sudden, all these all the tech guys are like, how about nuclear power? It seems to be very convenient, doesn't it? Right? If you get kind of like the video about why don't we have Medicare for all? Well, because the AMA put out a propaganda campaign to make everybody think, oh, it was a socialist idea and it's really bad. And you don't want socialism, do you? And everybody's like, well, I guess not. Right? And therefore it doesn't pass, right? Therefore there's much. So if you put out this idea into the public that like, oh, nuclear power is not so bad. And then whenever, when all the tech guys are like, how about nuclear power? Then everybody's like, well, I don't know. I heard it wasn't that bad. So go for it. It's like, there's no opposition to it. You see how that works? It just seems a little bit convenient in my mind. I don't know. You tell me. When that's good. That's good. I like it. Everybody was a turn. But I do notice a trend. Yep, that's right, Gregory. I notice a trend out there in like, call me paranoid. Call me paranoid. I see these kind of talking point narrative points that are put out there, and maybe somebody's like, duh. I'm sure plenty of people are like, what? Of course, dude. I'm sure. I'm just saying, like, I see some of the narrative points that the independent journalist world is running with, and I'm kind of like, considering that induces people to think a certain way, that sure is convenient for the people in charge who want to keep doing the things that they're doing without any opposition, without any clear opposition, because everybody's like, nah, fossil fuels they're not that bad, or et cetera, right? LED lights. What's this about LED lights? You don't need nuclear power after the invention of the LED light bulb. Humans don't consume much electricity. Well, unless you're making stuff. That you gotta, yeah. Yeah, LED lights, super cheap. But we already know this is like a bad deal all the way around, right? Screws up the environment, just sucks up energy, sucks up groundwater, and all of it with the intention of, data profiling everybody down to the brain stem. Right? Yeah, I saw that, man. They stopped minting pennies. That was like barely a news story. Right? Reflect the sun, bad deal for sure. Rivers drying up, unable to cool reactors. Yeah. I just, has anybody gotten the memo? The nuclear power is not that big of a deal. People like, yeah, I don't, people died at Chernobyl. People died at 3 Mile Island. And not just, right during the event. They died. Everyone who lived around 3 Mile Island. There was like an insane rate of cancers in everyone who lived in the area. You think they're linked? And I'm sure there's even just background noise of like, elevated cancer risk. Just like there's elevated cancer if you live next to a highway. There's a data out there, like if you live within, if you're really close to a highway, if you live within, a few hundred yards of a highway, your cancer risk is really elevated. So you don't want to live next to a freeway ever. I used to, but and then for a time when I lived near downtown LA, and we lived like at the confluence of like 3 major freeways in LA. And it was, like right near downtown LA, and there were all these freeways right there. And we had this, like, I think it was tire dust. It must have been tire dust and just stuff from the freeways. But we had this black dust that would come in through the doors and the windows that we were always sweeping up. And we're like, black dust? What is this? I'm sure it was like tire fragments. That was probably a very unhealthy place to live. But, there's data everywhere. Like if you live close to a refinery, you're going to get cancer. If you live close to a nuclear power plant, you're going to get cancer. If you live close to a chemical plant, you're going to get cancer. If you live close, it's kind of obvious. that these things are dangerous and that they should be opposed and or avoided at all costs. Okay. It was more expensive to mint nickels. Let's see. I mean, that was kind of quiet, don't you think? There wasn't a big like uproar around pennies being gone. There wasn't a big like, hey guys, we're going to stop minting pennies. How do you, nobody asked the question, how do you guys feel about that? It was not proposed to the public. They were just like, no more pennies. I would say if you have some pennies, hold on to them because they probably will be worth. Well, aren't they worth more in the copper value or in the metal value? Something like that. I don't know. Well, there's no actual copper in pennies anymore, right? I'm just saying I would hold on to the pennies if you had some pennies because they might actually increase in value pretty soon, right? Like people will be, there's no more pennies. These are valuable. The U.S. Mint has officially ceased production of the penny, striking its pretty soon they're going to take away your cash, and they will. I say that jokingly, but that's not a joke. They want to. Oh, they're totally usable currency, yeah. Right. You're saying they're still in circulation. They're just not going to make more of them. But what I'm saying is eventually they're going to become, it's kind of the if you're not printing any more of something or making any more of something, it instantly kind of increases its value. Like eventually they're not going to make any more Bitcoin, right? You won't be able to mine Bitcoin. I forget the year. There's a certain point at which there won't, and the idea around that there's a finite amount of Bitcoin tends to lead people to believe it will become more valuable in time because there's a finite amount of it. There's a finite amount of pennies. So we're not making any more pennies. It just logically it would say that it would increase their value, to people in time, over time. Who knows? Yeah. Especially if you got some shiny ones. Sorry. The Philadelphia Mint made its final 1-cent coin on November 12th, 2025. Oh, this is Donald Trump's fault. He ordered the Treasury Department to stop making pennies. It's his fault. You can blame him, citing that each coin cost 3.69 cents to produce, significantly more than its face value. Well, there you go. There's reason to hoard pennies right there. You keep those pennies. You put them somewhere safe. While pennies will remain legal tender, billions are still in circulation. Businesses are beginning to round cash transactions to the nearest nickel due to anticipated shortages. And it's Elon Musk's fault too. It's a recommendation from the Doge crew. So this is supposed to save us money that we can't give to people to eat. Okay. Is there really a dwindling penny supply? I mean, I think there's plenty out there. They just want to start taking things out of circulation, I think. Each nickel costs 14 cents to produce, raising questions about its long term. They're going to start taking these things they're going to start taking cash out of circulation, guys. One by one. They'll do the penny, then the nickel. Then they're like coins, schmoins. John Glad says, when the grid fails, crypto will be worthless, so will cash, commodities will be king. I think you might be right about that. A copper or zinc shortage you're not telling us about? Well, they're both used in a lot of use. They both have use cases, right? So there's that too. Tokens. Can't wait to get my tokens. You have air filters. They get pretty black after 6 months. Yeah. Sounds scary. Yeah, well, the black dust that used to come in our house was like, it settled like on everything. And it was weird because, dust is usually like a grayish light color. Typically. Maybe brown. But black, like a black dust, is like a very scary thing to be sweeping up or wiping up from places. That might be all I have for you guys today. Thank you for joining in and for hanging out, guys. Appreciate it. Oh, here's another. I forgot to show this. David Root from Austria had his house invaded by police because he posted a video of an hold on one second. Israel's ambassador. Oh, his name is not David Root. David Root is Israel's ambassador to Austria, who casually suggested that Palestinian miners in Gaza should be executed. So he uploaded this video of this Israeli ambassador saying this, and his house was stormed, and they took all of his hard drives and computers and whatnot.
I wasn't home. Remember this video?
I'm gonna play golf in Gaza, whether you like it or not.
If you're believing that Israel is targeting babies intentionally, which is not correct. There should be a death sentence to be killed off in war if you hold a gun. Even if you are a 16-year-old and under a UN, whatever it is called, a child, a 17-year-old who hold a grenade.
Our house got raided because of it. Here's to offer you a bit of a backstory. I'm German and Moroccan Jewish. In March, I was invited to a meeting with the Israeli ambassador to Austria, David Root. We met in the Jewish Community Center where the press took pictures and he sat down with about 20 people. He started talking about diplomacy, hostages, and the usual Zionist visions. Without anyone asking, he said, if Europe were crazy enough to invest again in Gaza, we would have to destroy it the next time. Everyone listened attentively as a man of influence spoke. When he suggested the death penalty for children involved in the war, I tried to stay calm. No one was reacting, and I had to see what else he'd say. The video of his statements went completely viral. Weirdly enough, Not a single media outlet in Austria or Germany reported on it. Journalists later reported that while the video made rounds, no one dared to. 1 month later, anti-terror units showed up at our doorstep. I wasn't home, so they let themselves in and stole anything that contained data, including an old phone, PC, hard drive, and notebooks. They called me on my phone, ordering me to the police station if I wanted to see my things again. I went there with a lawyer and collected a receipt of their theft. The sentence for publishing video material of another person is up to 1 year in jail. There's no doubt that the video disturbed some Zionists in high places. They needed the video to disappear and consequences to be taken. What's shocking is the complicity with which countries in Europe obey and execute on their orders. Instead of investigating a high-ranking official making genocidal claims within your country, the Austrian state decided to go after the people ringing the alarm bells. Once again, Austria is standing on the wrong side of history. It's a sign of fascism coming closer and closer. While right-wing groups spew hatred against Muslims and Jews, the state fabricates terrorists on the left. It's clear that the capitalist elite in charge of media, empires, and war machines has no interest in siding with the people, as it would mean giving away their power. The show must go on, whatever the price. But as Woody Guthrie said, all these fascists bound to lose, they're bound to lose. Let's just make sure we're there for each other when they crash the wall.
Okay. What the heck? And that's what's happening everywhere pretty much, is that the state is siding with the fascists against the people. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. If you want to support the channel, you know how to do it. There are a bunch of links in the description box. You don't do pennies in Canada, Kate? Nasty carpeting, yeah. Nasty carpeting will get you every time. All right, guys. I'll see you on the flip. And peace out. Where's my button? Where's my confounded button? All right, beware the bear.